Donald Trump struck out every single time at bat, and almost to the point where I came close to feeling sorry for him.
I've covered I don't know how many political debates, candidates debates, presidential and prime ministers debates, and I'm always wary of the concept of winning and losing a debate because so much is in the eye of the beholder. But I wonder what you both make of the, well, pretty broad analysis backed up by a lot of reputable polls. And I've got to say, it seems like the end of evidence of my own eyes that Kamala Harris won last night. Amanda, what do you say to that?
I think she had a very good performance last night, but it was very much a skewed performance because the bar was set very low. She has not done a single debate or interview except for a CNN interview that was about 18 minutes long. So the bar was set low. She did a good job of not having a word salad, as they say. Yeah. She often does. She didn't cackle like she usually does. I think I only caught her doing that one time. So I think she came off as wanting to be the prosecutor, prosecuting the villain. I think that was what she was trying to portray. And I think Trump was Trump. Trump had a couple good zingers that last night. I didn't like her body language. She came off as being pejorative. I think she looked at him, laughed, rolled her eyes, had her hand under her chin. I just don't think those things really bode well. But if she was to have a good night, she had a good night. It wasn't Trump's best performance. It wasn't his worst performance. I think Trump was Trump.
Yeah. So Amanda, if this debate is remembered more for Donald Trump's shortcomings than it is for Kamala Harris's performance, we heard him relitigating his claim that he was cheated out of the 2020 election. There were those personal attacks. And Amanda, the evidence is that key swing voters in America, they don't want to hear that, do they?
Well, I think that was really up to the moderators to really have asked the right questions and to probe when the two candidates didn't answer the questions. And I think Kamala Harris did that a lot more. So in other words, they asked her, well, you flip-flopped on a lot of issues. Tell us about that, fracking, for example. And she said, I'll talk about that, but first let me talk about this. And she never really flushed out the issues that she has flip-flopped on. And there have been many. So I think last night really was an unfortunate night because of the moderators not really honing in on the questions the way the CNN moderators did back in June. So really honing in on the questions and asking important questions. I mean, less than 5 minutes spent on inflation in the economy, less than 5 minutes spent on the border and security and homeland security. Those are the top two issues for Americans right now. Why are we talking about the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, that no one's really talking about?
Right. So Susan Platt, I mean, by pretty broad consent, Kamala Harris had a good night. Was she given, Susan, an easier ride by the moderators, by the debate itself?
Oh, gosh, I'm not even sure where to begin with all what Amanda said. I mean, it's normal campaign operatives. When your candidate does horrible, blame the media. And so that's what you're seeing today. I thought it was an amazing and I believe could be a consequential debate. The split screen and contrast between the candidates was so stark and clear to anyone watching. Donald Trump talked lies about immigrants eating dogs and cats and fumbling and bumbling along. He showed his age and appeared more diminished by the minute and unhinged and just plain weird. Kamala Harris began her performance with walking across the stage with her hand out to Donald Trump, which she kind of shrunk back on. She showed herself to be presidential in appearance, demeanor, and command of the facts, and on the issues facing Americans today. Donald Trump is clearly stuck in the past with grievance politics and me-isms. Kamala Harris laid out specific plans for the future on the economy, national security, and foreign affairs. And if I were to claim a sports example, Kamala Harris hit home run after home run, while Donald Trump struck out every single time at bat, and almost to the point where I came close to feeling sorry for him.
So, Amanda, I've got to ask you about that line, which is echoing around the world, literally. Donald Trump's claim that immigrants in Ohio are stealing and eating domestic family cats and dogs. It has been debunked. It actually reminded me of the sort of thing I used to hear when I was a boy of 8 years old. This is half a century ago. It looks rather like a crude slur. Was it wise? It can't have been wise, Amanda, can it?
I think that the undertone of this was that there are illegals that have come to this country because of Kamala Harris's being the border czar policies of this administration, and crimes are being committed. Whether you want to talk about cats or dogs or whatever the best example is, to me, a better example is the crime that's happening, the rapes, the murders, all the devastation that we're seeing in small and large cities because of
Mm,
undocumented illegals coming to this country, because of the open border caused by this administration.
mm,
Day one after Trump was out of office, what did they do? They said, we're not building the wall, we're stopping the building of the wall. The return to Mexico policy and other policies that Trump had in place, they said, we're not doing that. And they campaigned on
mm.
this. They said it wasn't nice, it wasn't kind, it was wrong for Trump to be doing this and not allowing illegals into this country. Well, look at the result and the
Yeah,
devastation now. And I think that's a better way to have talked about it. But I will say, if you were on social media all of yesterday, that's all you kind of
sure.
saw was this talk of, sacrifice of animals and that sort of thing that someone has claimed has happened. So I think there are better ways to talk about
Right,
it, and that starts with the crime.
right. So forgive me if I just push on that a little bit, because there may have been better ways. I'm sure there were better ways of talking about immigration, but that was the way that Donald Trump chose to talk about immigration. I was just listening just a few moments ago to an interview with the mayor of Springfield, Ohio, who said he did not see an uptick in crime attributable to the large number of Haitian migrants who come into that city. Your view then on the use of that claim, that inflammatory claim about immigrants, Amanda, eating cats and dogs, that would have been better off not said, don't you think?
I think that he used it again, as I said yesterday. If you followed social media, it was all the talk. And I
Yeah.
was a little perplexed about what it was even about, because I kept seeing all these pictures of cats and dogs. And I'm like, what is this all about? And so there have been anecdotal testimonials that people have said. But really, when I think about what's important, I think about crime. And if
Mm,
you look at the majority of the voters that you have to get that are more independent, not affiliated with a party, those are unmarried women. And what matters to unmarried women?
mm.
Financial security and the security and safety of themselves as individual single women. And so talking about this in that context, I think would have been a better thing to do.
All right, Susan Platt in the blue corner, as it were, the Democratic side. You said a moment ago you thought this debate could turn out to be consequential. What do you mean by that? Do you fear it could be a decisive moment?
Well, I do think, if you listen to all the false claims of which Donald Trump made last night, I think CNN counted 33. Um, you kind of, and you saw his demeanor. You saw this dark cloud over his head. You saw how he demeaned Americans, how he demeaned America as a failed country. I don't think anybody wants to believe that. But when you watched him and you listened to him, I think you have to sit back and say, well, really, what did the guy do and what's he going to do for me? Not him. When he ran in 2016, he said he was going to build the wall and Mexico was going to pay for it. Well, that didn't happen. And by the way, Amanda, we all know crime and immigration numbers are down compared to when Donald Trump was in office. So there's very not much, I mean, you could say lies all day long, but we all, and any crime, murder, rape
Tell
is
that
hard.
to the families
But we
of the
know it's
victims. Tell
down.
that to the families of the
I'm sorry,
victims.
I beg your pardon. Can I finish my sentence?
Yeah, do finish off, and I want to go back to Amanda on that, but do finish your
Thank you.
point, Susan.
And the economy, we all know what happened with what's happening with the economy. COVID hit. It could have been disastrous. It was disastrous for the United States and all across the world. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are bringing us back. Inflation is going down. Mortgage rates are going down. Crime has been down. And Kamala Harris has a plan to help the middle class, first-time home buyers, first-time parents, to help achieve the American dream quicker than anyone else. And all
Yeah.
Donald Trump
Okay.
says is he's going to give tax cuts to the rich.
Okay, Amanda, I want to give you a chance to come back on that question of crime. And I do note, by the way, that the moderators in the debate last night, they did point out that FBI statistics suggest that violent crime is down, but do answer in your own way.
Well, Well, I think you have to, really speak to the families of the victims. I mean, this is happening. This seems like an everyday occurrence. If you follow the news, it is every day that you're hearing of whether it's a drunk driver, whether it's a murderer, whether it's a rapist. And so I say, tell that to the victims of the families who have been dealt this hand. And so again, if your job as the border czar was to secure the border, you have failed. So show me where you have done something, Kamala Harris, to prove to the American people that you've done a good job. And everything that she says she's going to do, why can't she do any of those things
Yeah.
right now? I mean, Joe Biden has checked out. Let's be honest about that.
Yeah.
So if he's gone and she's in charge, or she's even ancillarily in charge, why isn't she doing anything about it?
That was one of the points that Donald Trump made last night. We're running out of time. And again, both of you, thank you for joining me. I'm going to come back to you, Amanda. I mean, you may be a Swiftie for all I know. You don't have to be a Democrat to like Taylor Swift. But are you dismayed that Taylor Swift came out for Kamala Harris in the way that she did?
Oh, come on, not in the least bit surprised. So I'm not a Swiftie. I think she's very talented. I think that, she's a remarkable woman. And as a woman, I love to see other successful women. But I'm not surprised that she chose Kamala Harris. And that's, what matters to her. Now, she has 200 million some odd followers, people that love her. She's probably one of the most loved people in America. But what difference does that really make? Unless she's willing to have a free concert and say, anyone who comes and signs up to vote, you get to come to a free concert. I don't know how much that moves the needle.
All right. I guess we will see. Amanda Mackie, Susan Platt, thank you both for joining me.